had a shoulder. You took care of my heart. And I promise you I will take care of yours.
Weeknights this fall on CW18.
Local, live, late-breaking. WESH 2 News on CW18 starts now.
Tonight at 10, no words can describe the grief in Lake County after the death of a deputy.
As an agency trying to put the pieces together, move forward, planning funeral, supporting his widow, his parents, I think the situation pretty much speaks for itself.
He and 2 other deputies shot in an ambush, and WESH 2 tracked down the man who made the initial 911 call.
The lady punched my girl in the face, and I was on the phone with 911.
Plus, rain, high winds, and the possible threat of tornadoes. A system in the Gulf of Mexico has strengthened to become Tropical Storm Debbie.
People are worried about that, just keeping the water from going up over their sills and into their house.
In about an hour, we'll get a better sense of where Debbie will make landfall.
Tropical Storm Debbie is on its way to Florida in the next 48 hours, the most crucial for us here in Central Florida.
Some of the biggest threats, potential flooding and high winds. Let's get straight to our team of First Warning meteorologist Marquise Mita and the chief meteorologist Tony Manalfi with the very latest.
So models, let's talk models first. They haven't really shifted much tonight, so we're not expecting any significant change in the cone at 11 o'clock. You're talking about an hour from now. However, we're watching what's going on down south. First tornado warning already popping up.
And that's a precursor for what's to come to us, right? We're watching down south, and that's what's going to be heading our direction overnight and throughout the day tomorrow.
Yeah, well said. All right, so let's get right into it right now, Marquise, and show that 8 o'clock intermediate advisory. Pressure coming down, 1,005 millibars. Hurricane hunters are in there. They're finding some decent wind, and the pressure is gradually beginning to fall through the evening here as it's breaking away from that northwest tip of Cuba. Remember, this is expected to become a hurricane at landfall. Most of the models tonight are right here on the western side of the center point of the cone there, so very good model agreement. We're kind of locking in on that. There's the specifics on that. You can see here's the cone, model center or western side of that. If there's any adjustment, maybe just a tick back towards the west, but that tick back towards the west, if it does come, isn't going to affect the impacts here all across Central Florida. The wind field is getting a little bit larger down to the south. Inland tropical storm warnings for Sumter, inland tropical storm watches for Lake on into Polk County. Don't think that is going to change based upon what we're seeing tonight. But look at these large feeder bands now coming up through the Keys. We had that tornado warning in and around Fort Lauderdale. That was allowed to expire, it looks like, just a couple of moments ago. But it's with that band. And these bands will migrate northward here as we get deeper into the night. And so we'll be watching what's going on down south, because what happens there eventually heads our way. Look at this big band. We get you into 2, 3, 4 o'clock, just kind of swinging on out from the center of Debbie. Then there's a little pause. And then the main entree coming on in overnight Sunday on into Monday. The most significant wind, Marion County, northern Flagler County. We'll have to watch again here as well for the risk for an isolated tornado or two. With more on what to expect, here's Marquise.
Well, Tony, we're going to be in that front right quadrants of this storm coming in, and tornadoes are something that we definitely have to keep our eye on, especially with one popping up to our south. But here's a look at the timeline of events in regards to Debbie. Overnight, we'll start to see those outer bands impact us here in Central Florida, and all day long tomorrow and throughout the day on Monday, what we're watching out for is the chance for heavy rain, flash floods, strong gusty winds, and that tornado risk that we did just mention. Now we're going to take a look at the graph model, one of our in-house models in which Tony was just looking at the rain chances and the timing of events, but we'll also take a look at the timing of the winds coming up. Flood threat, though, is going to be major, though, Sunday and into Monday, especially across I-75. But here's a look at the rainfall accumulation. We could see much more rain to our north and west, up to 5 to 10 inches across the Big Bend area. But here's a look at those wind gusts, which start to really pick up overnight and throughout the day tomorrow. We see speeds of 20 to 30 mile per hour conditions across Orange County. That's early out the door on Sunday morning. Now the speeds are really starting to pick up, especially further to our south. 34 mile per hour conditions in Winter Haven. We got a couple 30s on the board out towards Brevard County too. So even though you are miles away from that center of rotation, the wind speeds are really going to be an issue, especially as this system starts to make landfall out the door early on Monday morning. wind speeds are now racing up to 50-mile-per-hour conditions in Ocala, and we'll see those similar winds out towards Flagler County and Palm Coast. 40 to 50-mile-per-hour speeds are still to come, and it's not just the winds that we're watching out for. Keep in mind that the other impacts include flooding, heavy rain showers, and even the chance for an isolated tornado. And we'll talk about that more with Futurecast coming up in the next 15 minutes.
All right, Marquise. People across our region are getting ready for the severe weather threat. In Lake County, several cities gave away sandbags all day today.
They did. WESH 2's Paula Tristan Arudo was there as people loaded up their bags and prepared for the storm. And more sandbag stations will open tomorrow. Just a few of the locations are listed right here on your screen. You can find a full list right now on our website, WESH.com.
For people who've lived in Florida for years, the name Debbie can bring up some bad memories of a tropical storm that hit back in 2012. This one caused $250 million in damages. 7 people died in Florida. That storm dumped 29 inches of rain just south of Tallahassee. And as you prepare for this tropical storm, Debbie, make sure you have a hurricane kit ready to go. We have a full list of what you'll need to put in it. Just go to our website, WESH.com.
And developing news out of Lake County tonight, where we're learning more about that ambush that killed Master Deputy Sheriff Bradley Michael Link. The 28-year-old was a graduate of Lake Minneola High School and served in the Army Reserves. And we found out the identities of 2 other deputies hurt in this shootout, Deputy First Class Stefano Gargano and Master Deputy Harold Howell.
And all of this began last night at around 8 in the evening in Eustis.
Yeah, just horrific. WESH 2's Haley Crumblehome heard from the sheriff's office, who said this all may have been.
And we're learning new information about the 2 other deputies wounded in this ambush. Deputy First Class Stefano Gargano was shot several times. He had 1 surgery and is scheduled for another. He is in critical condition. Master Deputy Harold Howell is stable and awaiting surgery. He was shot in the shoulder. Earlier today, the Lake County Sheriff's Office led a procession honoring Master Deputy Bradley Link. The Florida Deputy Sheriff's Association is accepting donations. 100% of the funds raised will go directly to the deputies and their families.
And the Florida Sheriff's Association is also warning about fake fundraising efforts to raise money for the family of the fallen deputy. The association posted on social media saying in part, quote, "Unfortunately, when tragedy hits, scams start to surface." We have a link to the official fundraiser right now on WESH.com. And still ahead, we've got more team coverage on this ambush. And with WESH 2's Dave McDaniel, he actually spoke with the person who initially called 911 for help bringing deputies to the neighborhood.
The outer bands of Tropical Storm Debbie are already reaching Central Florida, and our first warning meteorologists are following the path of this storm hour by hour.
Plus, Florida Power and Light employees say they're ready to restore your power if it goes out in the coming hours. A look inside their main operations center in South Florida.
We're back here at 10:14 on the Saturday night, and Tropical Storm Debbie's on its way to Florida. We're beginning to feel the impacts. Check out the tropical storm warnings and watches in effect right now. That's up on your screen here. Several Central Florida counties are in the mix. Another check with our team of first warning meteorologists in just a moment.
All right, here's a headline from South Florida, new at 10. The Venezuelan community rallied today. Huge crowd there. They're responding to the political unrest in their home country after the presidential election there.
This is for the whole world to know that we are together, that we're fighting against Nicolás Maduro's regime.
That rally remained peaceful there in downtown Miami. And staying in South Florida as Tropical Storm Debbie moves closer to Florida, Florida Power and Light crews are on standby to restore power if needed.
And Steve King with our South Florida sister station visited FPL's statewide command center in Palm Beach County. And that was Steve King reporting. Now tonight, Duke Energy is sending out more than 3,000 workers across Florida. They'll be able to respond to any power outages as soon as possible. And officials are reminding you to make sure you have that supply kit ready, including bottled water and non-perishable foods. You should also have a backup plan in case you need to leave and go to a shelter. You can sign up for outage reports or report your own by texting to the number, it's on your screen, 57801, and you text the word out. Governor DeSantis is expected to talk about emergency responses to Debbie tomorrow morning. The governor will be speaking at the State Emergency Operations Center around 7:30, and we're going to bring it to you live on CW18.
All right, and let's get back to Marquise and Tony here. You guys have been watching this thing really all day, and we can't say it enough. The bottom line is no matter how that cone looks, left, right, east, west, everyone's going to get rain.
Yeah, and the behavior of what's going on down to the south will more than likely head our way. So we had one tornado warning. Yep. Now we have another severe thunderstorm warning. So there is some energy now with these squalls that are coming up, and that's one of the things we've been focusing on.
Yeah, these outer bands, they're only going to get stronger and much more frequent as that eye or that center of rotation continues to travel north, eventually making landfall on Monday morning.
And generally what happens, guys, when a storm does get stronger, there's a greater or a higher risk for more of what's going on to actually increase. So that's the other thing we have to watch
so
here.
Broward County saw some
Correct.
activity.
For a lot of now it's more near Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah.
So moving inland. All right, let me show you the latest cone. We're going to delve into all of this here on Debbie. Remember now, we get a new hurricane advisory with a new cone here at the top of the hour. Sometimes Hurricane Center is a little bit quicker, so it could come down as early as 10:40. But we're not really expecting too much of a change. Maybe just a slight shift to the west, or a tightening up, I should say, which doesn't mean that we're out of the realm of getting wind and rain and the risk for tornadoes. Just because the cone is off towards our west, this is going to be what we call heavily weighted right side storm, meaning all of the energy is going to be on the eastern side of this storm because of the upper level direction of the winds. We, speaking of winds, have inland tropical storm watches for Lake on into Polk counties. We have for Sumter County a tropical storm warning, meaning tropical storm force winds are expected there within 36 hours. There's our circulation center now just north of Havana and lifting up towards the northwest. And you can see the bands of energy already well in advance of our storm system down to the south, generating a ton of rain on not only the eastern side of the Florida Peninsula, but now closer towards Naples and Fort Myers. The earlier tornado warning has now become a severe thunderstorm warning on the southwest side of Lake Okeechobee. That will eventually build northward into our area, creating the potential for some flooding, especially in our western counties, where we have seen a lot of rain over the last couple of days. With more on that and what to expect going forward, here's Marquise.
Tony, flooding is going to be the primary concern that we'll see here across central Florida, but also we do have the threat of strong tropical storm force winds. Debris on the road is going to be quite common, and we could have some power outages due to those strong winds as well. We do have tornadoes as a moderate or a medium level threat. That's just because these will be isolated in variety, whereas all across central Florida we're susceptible to flooding. And then across our westernmost communities, surf and storm surge in the Big Bend area, that's going to be a threat as well. We're going to take you county by county now, in which here across Orange County we can see 3 to 6 inches of rainfall. Isolated rainfall accumulation can be up to 7 inches in local areas, so flooding is going to be a major concern. And then the max wind gusts are 35 to 45 mile per hour speeds. In Sumter County across I-75, winds could be even greater. You're closer to that center of rotation. Winds could be anywhere between 45 and 55 mile per hour conditions. Also across Lake County, winds 40 to 50 mile per hour conditions there. Rainfall 4 to 6 inches, and of course with isolated locations we could potentially see more rain, but flooding is a major concern no matter where you are in central Florida, as we can see up to 8 inches towards our north and west in Marion County. And let's take a look at Flagler County now. Wind speeds could be up to 40, maybe 50 mile per hour conditions there. In Volusia County, we'll finish it up with you guys. A flood risk, we're watching out for that severe weather threat. Now, we do have a couple other counties that we couldn't get to. You can feel free to visit WESH.com to find out what specific impacts will be in your county. But we're also going to talk about the threat for any tornadic activity. We're in that right front quadrant. So all across central Florida, we have the risk of seeing an isolated spin up, and that chance is going to be greatest between Sunday and Monday. Overnight tonight, though, if you haven't finished up your preparation, do so. We'll have a lull in the rain. We actually start off the morning tomorrow with partly cloudy skies, but across the day, showers are certainly going to pick up. And throughout Monday, we're watching out for that severe weather risk, as we will be anticipating the worst of the weather still to come. Now, with that center of rotation continuing to move across the Gulf Coast, now our models are starting to agree more and more as new data comes out. We do see the European model a little bit further out towards the east, the GFS further out towards the west. west. Regardless, though, the heavy rain is going to be a major impact here in central Florida as we're watching out for flooding as a primary concern, in which we could see up to 10 inches of precipitation out towards the Big Bend area. So we're watching the tropics today, tomorrow, and into Monday. That's where temperatures start to decline. We're back in the upper 80s. But as we take a look at your a 7-day forecast, here we are. We actually see the weather starting to mellow out. We're back to our seasonal averages on Tuesday, and then temperatures begin to rise once the storm pulls past us as we return to the mid and the upper 90s from Wednesday all the way into Saturday.
Tonight, we continue keeping track of Tropical Storm Debbie. Take a look at your screen. It's on its way to Florida. And right now, on the right, you're seeing a live view outside, and that's downtown Orlando. We do have some cloud cover there. The rain and storms that we've been seeing on and off throughout the evening are part of this system, some of those outer bands hitting us. But the biggest impacts are not expected until tomorrow and late in the day. We'll get another check from our team of first warning meteorologists in just a few minutes. Tonight, we're also watching Team USA going for gold at the Summer Olympic Games in Paris.
Yeah, this is a way better topic than a storm, isn't it? It's a new day in the City of Light. Paris is 6 hours ahead of us, so it's early Sunday morning there. This is a live look at the Eiffel Tower. And now to the latest medal count. Team USA has by far the most medals with 61 total, but we're second when it comes to the number of gold medals, trailing behind China. And Olympic athletes are among the best, of course, and while they might typically be stereotyped as jocks, there are still the, quote, geeks of the games. Fencing demands speed, anticipation, and strong reflexes, and that's why it's often called physical chess.
I think fencing is a very cerebral sport. You're trying to out-strategize and think a couple steps ahead of your opponent.
So for the first time ever, the U.S. women's team took the gold in the foil competition.
Congrats.
Yeah.
And of course, WESH 2 is following our local athletes competing in Paris. Join Stuart Moore and Michelle Imparato for the Olympic Zone. This show airs live from Universal Orlando Monday through Saturday at 7:30 on WESH 2. And we have more news for you coming up at 10:30, including drama over the next presidential debate.
Yeah, former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris may not meet face-to-face after a move from the Trump campaign. We'll be right back.
What are we going to do tonight?
Come with me. I know a place.
What are we waiting for? Let's bounce.
So, what do we got?
Laughs.
Antics. All freaking night long.
Here we go.
Welcome to the club.
I think this is the place.
I have to tell everybody.
What's with the smile? This is big. It's going to be awesome. I think you're describing a party. Check, check, and check.
Yeah, I love parties. The CW18 Late Night Comedy Club. Weeknights at 11. Brought to you by Hudson's Furniture. Turning houses into homes.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. Hello, Sheldon.
Hello, Sheldon.
CW18 presents A Tale of Two Sheldons.
Welcome to my life.
They both live for science.
What could be more fun than giving a physics lecture?
Me, because I just did it.
They both have their quirks.
You're sitting in my spot.
He's in my spot. You'd let her make him stop being naked in my spot.
And they both love a good
Bazinga.
Two shows, one extraordinary combo.
I agree.
Young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory. Weeknights starting at 6 on CW18.
I'm so smart.
Local, live, late breaking. WESH 2 News on CW18 starts now.
And right now at 10:30, several Central Florida counties are under tropical storm warnings and watches tonight as Debbie makes its way into the Gulf of Mexico.
And the worst of this tropical storm is expected to hit tomorrow evening into Monday morning, so it's crucial that people pay attention and prepare now. Our team of first warning meteorologists, Marquise Mita and the chief, Tony Manolfi, standing by with the very latest models.
All right, guys, so the first thing we want to talk about is the cold. We don't think there's going to be much of a shift. At 9 o'clock, 9:30ish, Marquise and I were starting to look at some of the evening models. There really isn't much of a change. Everything kind of centered on the eastern side of the Big Bend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we can see this system intensifying, though, right? It could be a Category 1 Monday morning just before landfall.
And if it does get that strong, then, we generate more torque, generate more instability. We're in the front right quadrant, so we'll have to watch that severe weather threat. We'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later on. Hey, let me begin with a look now at the forecast cone. So let's take a look now at some of the other features here that we want to kind of gauge for you. So there's our storm pulling away from Cuba. Look at these large bands of moisture coming out. And when you start getting the banding going on, that's when you can get into trouble with some tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. And that's what we've been seeing in the deeper convection, the higher cloud tops there. This is the cumulative radar, our center of circulation, probably right about in here. Notice the winds here now, holding steady between 35 and 45 through the Keys. As well, with more on that, here's Marquise.
Tony, as you had mentioned just a second ago, we had the watches, warnings, and advisories up in which we're under a tropical storm warning across Sumter County. We're also under a flood watch in Sumter County as well. We're taking a look now at the rain comparison, though. Every single day over the next 3 days, we're going to get bands upon bands of accumulation, and it's towards the north and the west that we'll see the most significant rainfall. We're just comparing the European model to the GFS. The European model does show much more concentrated precipitation across I-75. The GFS, though, we can see anywhere between 3 and 5 inches of rain nearly all across central Florida. One more model that we have been looking at is the QPF data that does it's very consistent with the European model, as a matter of fact, with the heaviest rain right along the Big Bend area. Now, here in central Florida, we can see 4 to 6 inches of precipitation. In our northwesternmost counties, we're talking about Sumter, also Marion County, but out towards the Big Bend area, that's where flooding is going to be a much more considerable threat, with 5 to 10 inches likely touching down before Monday is said and done. Here's a look at the timeline of events. So overnight, those stronger outer bands, well, those continue to rise towards the north, affecting us here in central Florida, and those bands become much more frequent and much more intense on Sunday and throughout the day on Monday, in which we'll be watching out for that severe weather risk. We'll highlight the worst of the weather with Futurecast, though, coming up in the next 15 minutes.
Tonight in Tampa, people are preparing to feel the impacts of Debbie. 4 sandbag locations are open throughout the county in preparation for some widespread flooding there. Up to 8 inches of rain expected in the area through Monday morning. And flash flooding can happen very quickly, as we know, and it's even harder to spot while you're driving. So here are just a few reminders to help you stay safe while driving through a storm. Slow down while driving when it's raining and avoid large areas of water if you can. If the weather starts to become difficult to drive in, pull over and find shelter until it clears up. And make sure you've downloaded our WESH 2 mobile app. We've been sharing the very latest tropical updates with push alerts, so be sure to turn those notifications on and check out our hurricane guide with a checklist of everything you need to get through this season.
And we want to get back to our other big story tonight. 1 deputy is dead, 2 deputies are wounded, and 3 suspects are dead after a shootout in Eustis. We told you in the last half hour, deputies were responding to a call, went to do a welfare check, and found a back door had been kicked in.
Yeah, the man who made that initial 911 call only wanted a woman on his property to stop harassing his dogs. WESH 2's Dave McDaniel spoke with that man today. And WESH 2 News is staying on top of this developing story as more people and government agencies continue to offer their condolences. You can find that and much more of our coverage right now on our website, wesh.com. And we have some breaking news to bring you right now out of Marion County, where the sheriff's office says 2 people are dead after being shot. Deputies were called just before 8 to Southeast 142nd Place and Southeast 30th Terrace. This is just south of County Road 484 in Summerfield. And that's where they found 2 people shot to death. Deputies say they know who the victims are, but will not release their identities until their families are notified. They also say this appears to be an isolated incident.
In Commitment 2024, tonight former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are at odds, not just over policy, but also which debate they want to attend. Trump has backed out of a debate set for September 10th. He has agreed to another debate hosted by Fox News on September 4th. Harris campaign officials say even if Trump is a no-show on September 10th, Harris still plans to address a prime-time audience. This weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to meet with several contenders who could become her running mate. Those familiar with the process of vetting VP contenders say she'll meet with potential candidates today and tomorrow. They include Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. This morning, more than 100 local children were equipped for the new school year at the Coalition for the Homeless of Central Florida. The Greatest Commandment nonprofit provided school supplies, free haircuts, and fun activities like face painting. Local churches also supported the drive by donating books to encourage reading. This event aims to boost these kids' confidence for the upcoming school year.
Wonderful to see that. Great stepping up for our community, that event. All right, new research shows people between the ages of 44 to 59 have the highest average credit card balances.
That's nearly $9,300 of debt. How you can pay it off faster ahead.
Plus, we continue to track Tropical Storm Debbie making its way toward Florida when we return, when the storm is expected to make landfall.
This week on Matter of Fact.
From NFL dreams to homeless and addicted.
What I did wrong, I want to make it right.
How he's now changing hundreds of lives.
What are we going to do tonight?
I know a place.
The CW18 Late Night Comedy Club.
I think this is the place.
Weeknights at 11. Brought to you by Hudson's Furniture.
NASA scrubbed a resupply mission to the ISS this morning due to weather. The Northrop Grumman cargo launch was scheduled for 11:30 this morning. It's carrying nearly 8,200 pounds of science equipment, supplies, and equipment for the ISS as well. The next chance to launch is tomorrow morning around 11. We'll see if Tropical Storm Debbie impacts that launch window. Another check with weather with our first warning meteorologist in just a minute.
Now to a new Rawson reports. New research shows how much credit card debt we're all carrying. Chief National Consumer Correspondent Jeff Rawson's here with those new numbers and what you can do to tackle credit card debt head on. Hey, Jeff. Okay. The big story that we are following right now is this tropical storm that has its sights set on Florida.
That's right. And of course, we're going to focus on Central Florida, but tonight we're going to be paying some attention to what's happening in South Florida. Could be a little precursor to what we're going to see.
You have kids. You have kids. I have kids. The behavior of this child down south has had a couple one tornado warning, a couple severe thunderstorm warnings. So what they do down south can sometimes translate up north. It's, we talk about kids and behavior. Storms have behavior patterns as well.
Yeah, and we'll see that system continue to make its way up the Gulf Coast, likely making landfall by Monday morning, in which those bands, those outer bands, could possibly contain some more tornadic activity.
If there's any good news, we've been watching the Hurricane Hunter report. The pressure isn't really dropping a whole lot. It's down to 1,004. It's coming down, but it's really, really slow, which is a good thing for us, I think. So we'll watch the trends. Hey, let me take you back outside, show you the cone. I was hoping that I could stall and chat with my friends at the desk long enough for this cone to update. Hasn't happened yet, but we'll continue to watch that. If we don't get it in here at 10, we'll definitely get in at the very, very end of the show, and certainly by the 11 o'clock hour to see what, if any, type of shift is going to take place here with this cone. I don't think it's going to shift much. I think it's going to tighten up a little bit because the model's in very good agreement, and there it is, a Category 1 hurricane potentially at landfall. Still going to have impacts here all across Central Florida. I want to take you right to what the hurricane hunters are seeing. We've been watching this the last couple of hours since they've been in there. 1,004 millibar pressure on the northern side of our circulation. That's not too terrible. What I've done here is kind of superimpose a little yellowish, goldish area indicating where the tropical storm force winds now extending out to the northeast about 75 to 80 miles over some very warm water. So we'll watch the trends here overnight. Tonight, plenty of rich, deep tropical moisture. Bands coming up across South Florida, Lake Okeechobee. Now there's the center of circulation now well to the southwest of Fort Myers. But we're watching these bands between midnight and 2 o'clock. Some of that's going to start to venture right here in the Central Florida. The models are doing a good job, and these bands are going to continue. There's Sunday evening. There's Monday morning. There's Monday afternoon. These bands coming across means the risk for heavy rain, gusty winds, and even the threat for tornadoes won't only be here Sunday night, but it'll be here as well on Monday with more in the storm and the chances for flooding. Here's Marquise.
Thank you, Tony. We're going to split that up into 3 days right now. Now today, the flood threat all across southern Florida. But you see on Sunday and into Monday, your flood threat is going to be nearly identical as we're dealing with the worst of the storm over that 48-hour stretch. And it's the Big Bend area that will see that moderate threat for flooding. That's a 40 to 60% chance issued by the Weather Prediction Center. But all across Central Florida here, we are in the yellow with that possible threat existing as the rain showers will continue to stack up as we head into the start of the upcoming work week. Now, as we take you county by county, we'll see it all across Central Florida. That flood threat does exist, but we also have some stronger, gustier, breezier wind conditions that we will be watching out for. So here's a look at the the storm impacts. Flooding high on our list, same with the tropical storm force winds, but we can't rule out the chance for an isolated tornado. We saw one to our south, and we'll likely see more as the days go on. And then out towards the west, especially across the Big Bend area, that's where the storm surf conditions are going to be the greatest. So here's a look at Polk County. We didn't get to this earlier in the newscast, but gusts could be anywhere between 35 and 45 mile per hour speeds. We also do have similar gusts out towards Osceola County. 40 to 50 mile per hour maximum wind gusts. In Brevard County, winds could be anywhere between 35 and 45 mile per hour conditions, but the rainfall could exceed 4+ inches before Monday is said and done. Out towards Seminole County, maximum gusts are 35 to 45 mile per hour speeds there, and here we are in Flagler County, max gusts 40 to 50 mile per hour winds there. So also on top of that, we do have the chance for any tornadic potential. Usually these are between EF0 and EF2 storm strength with maximum winds of 135 miles per hour. So before that chance gets here, use the hours that we have tonight and early tomorrow morning to get prepared, as we will see those bands of rain returning to Central Florida on Sunday and all across the day Monday, in which we're watching out for that severe weather risk. And that includes the chance for flooding, especially along the Big Bend area with 5 to 10 inches of rainfall accumulation. Wind comparison between the Euro and the GFS is nearly identical as the storm track continues to move up the Big Bend area, but we see a slight discrepancy once it moves past us, in which the European model does show faster winds off in the Atlantic. Regardless, though, we'll keep you up to date here on WESH 2 as we continue to track the tropics tomorrow and Monday. And then as we move into the work week, temperatures start to rise as the weather mellows out. We'll be back in the mid-90s Wednesday through Saturday, and we'll be right back here on WESH 2 News coming up after the break.
Now, WESH 2 Sports on CW18. Sponsored by attorney Dan Newland.
Let the countdown officially begin. We are just 1 week away from the Bucs' first preseason game. Hello and welcome back. I'm Kristen Lago. Throughout camp, it's been easy to see that the Bucs O-line will be a strength this year, led of course by Tristan Wirfs, but it's not just Wirfs that got better in the offseason. Running back Rashad White with some high praise today for all of the guys up front. The Gators will kick off their season against Miami on August 31st. Yes, less than 30 days until college football. Back to you guys.
All right, and that's our newscast for now. For more news and weather, head on over to WESH 2 for our news. That's coming up at 11:30.
Have a great Saturday night. Thanks for joining us this evening.